Hello everybody, welcome to Top 9 Team Fortress 2 classes. So we're going to be dividing this up into tiers, and this is all depending on the player's skill level. So the God tier is that if the player is super good, he's unstoppable. Top tier is if the player is good, then he's pretty good but not unstoppable. Mid tier is if the player is good, he's kind of a hassle to deal with, but you can't do anything with it. Low tier is he's not a hassle even if he's good, and poo tier is he's poo even though he's good. Starting with the lowest in the poo tier, we have the 9th class, the Pyro, dead last. This Pyro, this class sucks.
The Pyro is designed to be the best short-range combat class, aimed at encouraging players to adopt an ambush style of play. To achieve this, we made the Pyro vulnerable in the open, which forces players to seek out enclosed areas and doorways. To add to the Pyro's short-range lethality, we made the flamethrower effects visually noisy, which helps disorient opponents long enough for the flames to finish them off. The Pyro is designed to be the best short-range combat class. Best short-range combat class. Best short-range combat class.
And in my book, best is the most damage. Scout wins. Okay, what about mid-range? Scout wins. Alright, even further back. Hey, the Pyro wins. So, even though it's close range, he's still not the best. What about the Soldier? Hey, we won. Alright, so we're better than the Soldier close range. What about mid-range? It's a tie, so... And then the Soldier wins. But you can reflect! Yeah, sure. Then the Soldier loses every time. What about the Pyro? Oh yeah, right, because Pyro's broken, because even though you're at the exact same distance, the flamethrower might not even hit each other. So even though if we move in closer and... Yep! Welcome to Pyro, a class that is broken and also the particles don't go where the flames are. I mean, the flames might go and you get lit on fire even though there's no particles. There's been many guys on this. What about Demo? It's a draw with no reflect. What about mid-range? Demo wins. And this is all range in close combat. This is not far away, but we can reflect, so guess that counts for something. What about the heavy? Close range. Pyro lose. Alright. What about slightly further away? Oh. Heavy still wins. Alright, what if we air blast him a little bit and then... The engineer, okay, surely we can... Alright, what about mid-range? Yeah, that one health will teach ya. Against the medic, we did alright as a Pyro. 57 health. Well, if we run towards him. It's a draw. Close range. Eh. What about the sniper? I should... Alright, what about just body shots? Yeah! Get wrecked with just body shots. What about a spy? Oh yeah, 55 health. Close range. Great. What about running towards each other? That did better than the medic. Alright, so the problem with the Pyro is that he's not the best combat class. Maybe he was when the game first came out, but players have learned to get better ever since that, and can adapt to a player pretty well. So in peak height, even if you air blast and you like shoot people with fire, good players, and we're always talking about good players because everything is good against bad players, that's sort of the thing we've established. That means like the things that's supposed to be noisy and give Pyro an edge because it's not damage, because we saw that like even the engineer at point blank does more damage than the Pyro, and the Pyro was designed to be the best close range combat class. It doesn't win, so we gotta assume that even if you get air blasted, they're still gonna hit you with their shots. So for me, Pyro is kind of a weak class because he doesn't have a lot of mobility. He has a bit more health than the other classes, but not enough. And his flamethrower just doesn't do enough damage quickly enough to give him that edge that he needs. Sure, he can like reflect and stuff like that, and like push away Ubers and stuff like that. But other than that, like, Pyro is a pretty weak class. I've never ever, even in competitive play, seen, like, even if you take like the best players, you can put them up against the worst heavies that know how to shoot, and they still won't be able to beat him, because that's why he's in the poo tier. Like, even if you're a super good player, you can get negated just by the counter of your class, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it as a Pyro, because you rely on being in short range, and if they just go out of range and or have more mobility, you're screwed. So I'm not entirely sure how to fix the Pyro. I mean, maybe give Air Blast do damage as well, just increase his damage output somehow, because sure, he can work with an Uber, sure he can take out sentries and stuff like that, but it won't be as effective as you Wayne with the Heavy, and the Heavy has more health and generally does more damage. So that's why Pyro is the lowest and the worst class in the game, according to me. You might disagree all you like, and of course you can be good as Pyro, but if you play against someone who is as good a Heavy as you are a Pyro, you will never ever win. So, moving on. In 8th place, we have the Spy.
And why is that, do you think?
Come on, Spy, I don't know.
Well, a mystery we will take to our graves then. Goodbye.
If you were to take Highlander -1, so it's 88, and the first class you have to remove, that would be the Spy. Because against competent players, Spies don't really do all that much. You might get one kill, and then you're done. Spy relies on your opponents not really knowing what you're doing and being fooled by your appearance and movements. If you play against competent players, I mean, this example here in footage here taken from Valve server, so that's not the case, but if you ever play on community servers with good players, you will notice that you get maybe one stab and then you die. Because you don't have a lot of health, you can one backstab, but you'll usually die like that every time you try to do something. So, but against poor players with poor game sense and that are new to the game, Spy is probably the most OP class because he shows up out of nowhere and he kills you in one hit and you have no idea what's going on. He also has a revolver that's alright for DPS balls. You can also use the Ambassador, but overall the Spy just lacks that reliability that other classes provide, and they provide it much better. He's not able to sustain combat for as long because he is reliant on being able to use his disguise and stuff like that, and against competent players that's only going to work for maybe once or twice, and then you have to switch later. So he's good for like getting a pick, but not much else. You hardly ever see Spies go on like huge killing sprees in competitive games. They might just get one kill or two. So why is he in the low tier? Well, it's because it doesn't matter how good you are a Spy. You can be the best Spy in the world. If someone just lights you on fire, a Pyro, you're screwed. Or if someone tags you or anything, just like gives away your location to your teammates or to their teammates, the other team, then you're just screwed forever and there's nothing you can do about it. You just die. But sometimes deceptions can work, but still not as bad as the Pyro, thank God. Coming up in 7th place, it's going to be none other than the Engineer. The reason for the Engineer being in the mid tier is because Engineer is so influential in the game. He is probably the most influential class in the entire game, which is why he ranks higher than the Spy. And the reason for that is wherever he puts his sentry is where the enemy team can't pass without some sort of teamwork or coordinated effort. His dispenser is where his teammates will go to refill health and ammo, so that will act like as a gathering point. And the teleporter is basically where you want your teammates to respawn. You select where they will show up when they run out of the spawn. So super influential because of those things, and also his shotgun does quite amount of damage as well. Like we saw in the example, you can kill a Pyro faster than he can kill you, and that is without buildings and without the gunslinger, which allows you to give you mini sentries. So the Engineer, you can use them both on offense and on defense. On offense, his teleporters play a much more active role than they do on defense, but however, you can use them still and build it and just be overly very useful just in general. And he can pack a punch. He has a ton of different unlocks that he can use, and most of them are good. Like you can get crits if you get assists on your gun. You can have infinite ammo, or you can be sneaky and go around the enemy base and put teleporters behind enemy lines, and thus like disrupting stuff even more and like just opening up for other classes to do well. You have the short circuit, which can remove projectiles, so if an other Demoman has like locked down an area or you're like struggling to get out of spawn or something, you can definitely use that to your advantage, and that's why engineer, like, mid-tier does not mean bad. Mid-tier means fairly balanced, but he does have like a skill ceiling of how much damage he can do, because he doesn't have that much mobility. Sure, he can wrangle jump, but that's pretty much as far as it goes. And once his buildings are gone, he's severely weakened. But nonetheless, he is a formidable class. And there's only 9 in the game, so it can only be 1 spots, and they aren't really that much different in terms of how good they are. They are fairly balanced. So in the mid-tier, in 6th place, we have the flagship character, the Heavy Weapons guy. The reason the Heavy is ranked above the Engineer is because he's basically a walking sentry. If you have good aim and you're playing against good players, you'll be able to do a lot of damage regardless. However, the reason he's not ranking higher is because he lacks mobility, and good players that play the more mobile classes like Scout, Soldier, Demo, and yeah, those 3 basically, will be able to outmaneuver you and focus fire you down, because the Heavy is not a burst-oriented class. He's very just constant damage. Like, you start shooting, you do the constant amount of damage all the time. You don't increase or decrease similar to other classes, and also you have the ability to heal yourself with a sandwich, which is really good and also works great for a health pack for your teammates. So being able to soak up a lot of damage is sort of like the most tanky class in the game. Does allow you to get focus fire down a lot, and sometimes like single Demomans like here can be very hard to kill despite you shooting at them if they zone you properly. But regardless, he works really great on defense, works really great on offense, and overall a class you can play whenever your team is struggling, and you're pretty much guaranteed to do really well at that point. He's not unstoppable, so that's why he's not in the high tier or the god tier, because when you shoot, you're always vulnerable for a backstab if you want to keep doing that damage and keeping your damage high. And you're also vulnerable to sniper headshots as well, because you're very slow. So that means, like, regardless of how good a Heavy you are, good spies and good snipers will be able to kill you with headshots and backstabs. Moving up to the top tier of the classes, in 5th, we have none other than the Scout. The right answer is Scout. Scout's the class in the game that increases its lethality and effectiveness the less players are present. So as for 1v1s, Scout's the best one because he's faster than everybody, he can double jump, and if he gets close, he can shoot them. Pretty much 2 or 3 shot every single class in the entire game if they don't have overheal or some other kind of resistance. However, I'm not a good Scout, but I've seen enough Scouts, and I know that if you know the Scout timings and you're good with the aim and the movement, you can be pretty close to God tier. However, the reason Scout isn't in God tier is because he's absolutely shit against sentries. I mean, if the other enemy team is going mass sentries, you can't do anything as Scout because it's like the direct counter. So that's the reason why he's not in the God tier and only in the top tier, because he can be stopped by that. But other than that, Scout has a lot of different unlocks. Many of them are very good and some are super OP, giving the right hands, and he has a really high skill ceiling because there's really no limit to learning how much game sense you have, how much you look around, how you deal with things, and how you move with the double jump because of the speed, and you can just jump over heavies like that. So even though the Heavy has additional damage or additional damage resistance or increased damage output, it doesn't matter because speed always beats power. And while Scout doesn't have as much power as the other classes, he definitely has speed, and as long as you're able to utilize the speed, Scout's an incredibly strong class. Pretty much close to unstoppable unless you have those sentries, because it requires you to have such like perfect spot-on aim. So with the speed, it enables him to be a great flanker, so you can pick off targets that's retreating or trying to run away, and you can run around the enemy, hit him from the side, stuff like that. Just really use the speed for all it's worth, and that just makes Scout such a strong class in the right hands of the right players in the right moments. But like stated many times before, a sentry wall, the Scout can't do anything. Maybe he can just run past with a bonk, but he still won't be able to kill like an engineer who's constantly repairing the gun solo. He's unable to do that. Moving on, in 4th place, we have the Soldier. Now, this was a hard one because Scout and Soldier are so similar, so Soldier isn't that much better than a Scout in terms of rating. The only reason that he ranks higher is because, well, he has splash damage, I think is the only reason why I would rank him higher than the Scout. He's good at shooting down. He can rocket jump, climb heights, take ground, occupy space. He has a lot of health. He doesn't move all too quickly, but he doesn't move extremely slow either. And rocket jumping is essential, and he is all okay against sentries, and he has unlocks to deal with sentries. So if the enemy, unlike the scout, if the soldier is up against mass sentries, you can either airstrike or direct hit them, and you will be able to power through that. So, Soldier is, of course, a class that doesn't really have any counters. Maybe a soft counter would be Pyro, but that's highly unreliable because as we know that the Air Blast is currently bugged the way it is, like it doesn't always reflect properly, so you're not able to 100% accurately do that. So one thing that makes Soldier super viable is the amount of unlocks that he has. He's probably the class in the game with the most, almost every single weapon in this current state of this video. Almost every single weapon for the Soldier is usable except for the Liberty Launcher. Every other unlock has its purpose and can be used to great effect. So that comes into great play if you're playing on a pub and there's a lot of other soldiers and you like you see here, we take out a sentry and then there's another rocket launcher on the ground. So when we're done with the sentry and you don't want to like spend using the dart hit anymore, we can just switch and be more effective. So you can just switch through like that. Also splash damage, you can shut down snipers pretty well. So if they're not well protected. It also has a great deal of secondaries like damage boosts, damage buffs, stuff like that. Also has a parachute that gives for some pretty nice air maneuver abilities that you can use for your advantage. I'm a huge fan of that, so that's what I like to do. But then again, he's not that great against sentries unless you already know that he's there. They're there, but overall stock Soldier, very viable, can be used in any situation, and if you're losing, you can almost always play Soldier and be of use to your team, as opposed to if you played any of the other classes I mentioned in this top list before. It's not necessarily sure that if you just stack them that you will solve the problem, because I do think if you mass Soldier, you're gonna win. So in third place we have none other than the Medic, the top of the top tier. Now the reason why a Medic isn't in the God tier is because the Medic isn't unstoppable on its own. A Medic is very much a class that just amplifies whatever team you're on. However, if you do want to win and you want to win a lot, you can just play Medic. And you can pretty much guarantee that your team will be better, especially if you're playing on pubs, because if the other team doesn't have a Medic, well then you basically win as long as you just have enough power classes such as Soldiers, Scouts, Demos, and Heavies, then you can just power through pretty much everything. However, the reason he isn't in the top tier is because he is vulnerable by himself and can get picked off by every single class, so he's not like OP in that matter. He's balanced that he just boosts teammates and heals others. He also has a variety of different miniguns as well, like the Kritzkrieg, where you just amplify your teammates' damage by 300%, making you able to do a whole lot of damage, allowing you to adapt to different things. Like if staying alive isn't a priority with the regular Uber, like you won't be able to do well with that, killing them faster can usually solve the problem. He also has a crossbow that can heal and damage people, so that just adds to more of his usefulness. Like good Medic is a key to any victory, but weak on his own. You also have the quick fix that allows you to jump with soldiers and have even more mobility, because Medic is already the second fastest class in the game. He can regenerate health, and with this thing he can just jump wherever the soldier goes. So if you have a really good soldier, you can just kind of tack onto him, and the same with Scouts. If you tack onto Scouts, you run the same speed, and then you sort of just like inherit their abilities. And then lastly you have the Vaccinator, which is a bit hard to use. I mean, it's a resistance base, so unless the player you're healing knows how much damage they can soak up using this thing, and don't steal your health pack like a bitch, then sure, this weapon can also work, or this Medigun can also work pretty well. But it's not guaranteed to give you as much access as just regular Uber Quick Fix or the Kritzkrieg. Moving on, we have the God tier. In second place, we have none other than the Demoman. If you took 12 of the best Demomen in the world, stacked them on one team, and then tried to stop them, you wouldn't be able to. Demoman is a class that if you reach a certain skill level, you become pretty much close to unstoppable. The only counters that you have are Scout and maybe Snipers, but you can use the crouch jump glitch to avoid that and maintain speed, and also Scouts aren't scary if you connect your pipe like a plumber. Like if you have extremely good pipe aim and sticky prediction abilities, then you will be pretty much close to unstoppable, and that's why Demoman is in the God tier. Another interesting fact is that he is the only class that is able to hurt enemies for a large amount of damage, or just in general with players that he doesn't see in the line of sight because of the way his bombs work. He's the only one that is really good at shooting up. So he's, even though he's listed as a defensive class, I would say he's better on offense because you can take out sentries on top of ledges because of the way the bombs work. And he's just so strong, and grouped with Kritz Krieg, he can just annihilate an entire team. He and one medic can destroy any other team that isn't ready and can't focus fire him properly. So, but even if you do focus fire him properly, you gotta assume that the team that he's on is able to protect him the same way. So if you ever met like one of these demos that seem unstoppable in the pubs, it's probably because they've reached that level where the god tier levelness of the Demoman really kicks in, and it's really hard to deal with because it does a lot of damage. It does splash damage. Like, just to summarize, he can hurt people he can't see. He hurts them for a lot. He can one-shot a bunch of classes, and he has a lot of health, and he can reload, and he can jump with it as well. Like, you can jump and reposition yourself, giving you mobility as well. So, high mobility, high damage, splash damage, and a lot of health. And the reason why he's not number 1 is because he has to reload. So God tier number 1, the best class in the game, probably no surprise to many of you, is the sniper. A good sniper is essentially unstoppable because if he sees you, you are dead, is essentially the thing. He is limited to the charge and the hit registration gods on the server. But other than that, a good sniper can pretty much solo kill any team. So if you've ever seen like a high-level player on a pub that seems pretty unstoppable, or you think that he's cheating, it's probably because they just reached that level. So the reason the only reason he goes above the Demoman is because he doesn't have to reload between shots. He has a stable damage output constantly, like very bursty damage from any kind of range, even close range. Like if you're a good sniper, you're good at close range and you're good at long range. He also has the Razorback, which basically removes a counter for him as well, which just increases the god tierness of the class. The only real reason you have to be able to dodge a sniper that has godlike aim is to jump and press crouch and use the jump crouch glitch, where you glitch your hitbox and model up and down to create like unnatural movement so he can't predict it. But if you don't do that, you're fucked. You're screwed and there's nothing you can do about it. You might have like laggy, unpredictable movement that can help, but really the only thing that can counter a godlike sniper at like the top level is another godlike sniper, because regardless of what you try, he will be able to just utilize his teammates. He will always stay in the back, and if you see him, you're dead. Or he sees you, more or less. So he can stop the heavies, he can stop scouts, he can stop everything, especially if he has overheal as well and he's protected and is not in the front by himself. So that's why Sniper is the best class. There's no bullet travel as well, except for when you use the Huntsman, but who uses that? He also has Girardi, which allows him to pretty much one-hit most of the classes if they ever get close to him as well, and the Girardi works as a spy tracker too. So you can track spies either by SMG tracing or with Girardi, or just don't care about spies at all by using the Razorback. So there you go, that was the top 9 classes of TF2. Like I said, the only class that is really poor is the Pyro, but other than that, they're all pretty good. So that's my ranking and also my 5-year anniversary video. So thank you guys for watching and stay tuned for more.